Everybody, welcome to our regular September 22nd Town Board meeting on this last day of summer. Could you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to make a motion to approve prior minutes for August 11th, 2014, our regular town board meeting, August 25th, our special town board meeting, August 3rd, our special town board meeting, and August 8th, our regular town board meeting. I bundled them. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'll make a couple of announcements, and then if anybody else has some, that would be great. Looking forward to the launch of our new website. We are calling for any photographers in Rhinebeck or beyond who have photos of Rhinebeck in the summer, in the fall, in the winter, and who'd like to see them on our website to submit them to Joan Winnie at town.planning@rhinebeck-ny.gov. The address and the call for the photos is on our current website. We have had our new phone system installed in Town Hall, and it's going really well, so I want to thank the clerk's office for that. Our new computers, thank you, Alan, are all up and running here in Town Hall. We're working on cemetery next, and then the highway garage, and then we'll move to the village. So great work, Alan. It's going swimmingly.
Thank you.
I want to thank the county. We did get notice today that our county executive, Marcus Molinaro, extended our community block grant for the park. So we have another year and a bit, Bruce, to use that money. Woo-hoo. And also, we received notice that our 501c3 has been approved for the park. It's Rhinebeck Park Fund Incorporated.
That's not ours.
It's not ours. It's yes, but to be clear about that, the 501c3. We received notice of that. Anybody else?
What is that to be used for soliciting
Fundraising,
contributions?
sure, by the Friends of the Park. Does anybody else have any announcements or? Okay, I'm going to move on to presentations. We have Bridget Barclay here. At the end of August, Bruce and I met with Bridget, who is the Commissioner of the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Commission, and Tom LeGrand, who's the president. They are a board that oversees, Bridget will tell us all about it, many water treatment and sewer treatment plants in the county, and we reached out for her because we believe we need help with Vandenberg Cove. And hope, there is hope. So thanks, Bridget.
Yeah,
Please, if you would.
So I thought what I would do is provide a quick overview on what the Water and Wastewater Authority is, what the scope of our current activities and operations are, talk about what we have developed over time that we've found to be a good process to go through when municipalities ask us to look at taking over an existing system, and then I can answer any questions that you might have. So we are a public benefit corporation. We were created at the request of Dutchess County by an action of the New York State Legislature. So that enabling law passed by the state lays out the powers and duties and the outlines of our scope and how we function. We are governed by a board of directors, so we are not a county department per se. That's probably the most common misperception. We are officially governed by a board of directors who are appointed, 5-member board, 2 appointed by the county executive, 2 appointed by the chairman of the legislature, and 1 member who's a joint appointment. They're appointed for 5-year rotating terms, so each year we potentially have a new board member. And they are the ones, much like a town board is responsible for the operation of the town. They govern the Water and Wastewater Authority. They establish policy, oversee staff, approve budgets, approve contracts, payments, and so on. The enabling legislation for the authority was passed back in 1992, so we've been in existence about 22 years. We took over our first system, which was a sewer system, in 1995, the Chelsea Cove sewer system from the town of Beekman. And since then, we have grown to include, depending on how you count them, and I'll explain that in a minute, 10 to 13 water systems, 3 sewer systems, and 1 water transmission line. Several of the water systems we've acquired over time, we've consolidated and operate as one system. That's why I say 10 to 13. We have a full-time professional staff. In addition to myself, we have a director of operations, a director of finance. We have people who do billing and bookkeeping. We have project facilitators. We have a staff engineer, and we have licensed water and sewer operators on staff. At this point, we provide service to about 4,200 customer accounts. I think the last I counted, we're in about 11 different municipalities in the county where we own and operate infrastructure. Our annual operating budget is about $5 million a year, and we have done, since 1995, when we took our first system, we've done about $45 million of capital improvements to those systems. With one exception, the Central Dutchess Water Transmission Line, every system that we own and operate was a previously existing system, several of them owned by municipalities, some of them owned by homeowners associations, some of them owned by private companies. In every instance where we did an acquisition, it was because we were requested by the current owner to do so. And by and large, the issues that have caused people to want us to come and take ownership of their systems have been the need for extensive capital improvements to the system and or financial issues, and very often the two go together. So we have, over time, developed a process that we use that we find, I think, serves everybody well when we're asked to look at taking over a new system. And again, first off, we only do so when requested to come in by the current owner. We look at the physical condition of this system. We will review any existing engineering reports that have been done, and I know in this case, Vanderburg Cove has probably had more of its share than of engineering reports done. We'll look at operations reports to satisfy ourselves that we understand what the system is, how it operates, what the deficiencies might be, what kind of capital improvements are needed or change in operations are needed. We look at the financial condition of the system. We try to look at anywhere from 3 to 5 years history of what the actual expenses have been, what the revenues have been. We look at what the existing rate structure is. And then we look at whether there's any legal issues that would be associated with a transfer of ownership. One of the issues that comes up occasionally is if there is any kind of outstanding debt and what the obligations or conditions might be that are tied to that financing. If there's any grant money that's currently being utilized, again, does that create any restraints on what can be done with the system? So the purpose of doing all of that is to be able to provide to the owner of the system, to the customers of the system, an overview, a description, a proposal, essentially, if you will, of what authority, ownership, and operation of that system would mean. We will put together a capital improvement budget. We try to look at things that are immediately needed improvements that are needed over the next 5 to 10 years. We look, based on the prior history of operation, what we feel is needed in terms of the operating plan. I mentioned before, we do have licensed water and sewer operators on staff. We use a combination of our staff and contract operators to operate our system. So I believe right now you have VRI as the operator for, Alan Gettle was actually the operator of Chelsea Cove when we took it over back in 1995, so we know him well. But we look at, whether we would operate it in-house, whether we would continue to use a contract operator, whether we think that there's a different scope of operations that's required. And then we put together a budget. This is what we would expect the operation expenses to be under the authority, including both the standard things like, if there's chemicals, electric, permitting costs and so on, as well as what the authority's expenses are for the billing and bookkeeping and administrative oversight of the system. And then we bring that back to, in this case, the town board, review it with you, see if there's questions, any additional information that you have that's relevant, or questions about how we do things. And then we recommend very, very strongly that the next step in the process, if at that point the town board still wants to go ahead, is public education and outreach. We will ask you to sponsor meetings for the residents. We'll send information, mailings out to the residents to explain who the authority is, what we do, what everybody's always interested in, how much is it going to cost them, and get their feedback. It gives the town board an opportunity to get the feedback from your constituents about how they feel about this. And fundamentally, I think, very often what it comes down to is that we have full-time professional staff that run water systems, sewer systems. We do, as I said earlier, a tremendous amount of capital improvements, primarily because the systems, when we get them, are in need of that. So I know with Vanderburg Cove, one of your primary issues, absolutely the biggest issue on the table, is trying to get a handle on the inflow and infiltration, and whether that's in fact what's driving the permit violations. We've done I&I studies at all three of the sewer systems that we own and operate. We've done I&I improvement programs, so we bring to the table a level of familiarity with the issues, how to work through them, how to deal with the permitting agencies, and how to ultimately make the improvements that are needed as cost effectively as possible, and run the systems within the permit conditions. So we provide that information. If at that point the town board decides that you still want to go ahead with a transfer of ownership, then the next part of the process is sort of the more formalized part. We own and operate systems in a context of having a county water district or county sewer district that defines the area that's served. So just like you right now have a sewer district that encompasses Vanderburg Cove, and I believe the Hyde Park has a sewer district in their piece as well, we asked the county legislature to create a sewer district at the county level. And the reason for doing that is twofold, and essentially the same reason that you have a district. It allows us to, if we ever need to bond for improvements to the system, it gives us a mechanism by which we can levy assessments on the properties that are benefited to cover the cost of the improvements. And then just like you have a re-levy process, if bills are unpaid, we can also access through that process through the county to re-levy unpaid sewer charges, so that we're always collecting the revenues that are needed to run the system. So if we're going to go forward, we will go to the county legislature and ask them to create a part county sewer district. For that process, we create a document that's called a map, plan, and report. It describes the area that's served, what the infrastructure is that serves that area, if there's intended capital improvements, what they're going to cost, and then what the estimated cost per property in the service area is. The legislature accepts that report. They schedule a public hearing at which anybody is welcome to speak, whether they're a constituent, a customer, or not. If the legislature then decides to continue and adopt the resolution to create the district, that resolution is subject to a 45-day permissive referendum. And what that means is from the time that the legislature acts, people who, and I always try to say this carefully because town law and county law are different. People who reside within, own property within, and are registered to vote within the proposed district can sign a petition to trigger a referendum. It's a very low threshold. It's 5% of the owners or residents. So if there is and it's a formal petition process, if there is a permissive referendum triggered by the petition process, then it goes out to a vote. It's a vote that's administered by the County Board of Elections, and the people who can vote in the referendum are only people who live within and are registered to vote within in the proposed district. So in this case, where it's
40-some odd
all
households.
residential, we've had other cases where it's a mix of residential and commercial, and people own property but don't live within the district. In this case, I think probably most of the people who are within that proposed area, anybody who's a registered voter within that proposed area would have the ability to vote. Thumbs up or thumbs down. If it's thumbs down, we're done. If it's thumbs up, the legislature resolution remains intact, and we go ahead and process the actual transfer of the ownership of the system and all the assets, and then we become responsible from that point on for the day-to-day operations, expenses, and so on of the system. So because there is that public hearing before the legislature, there is that permissive referendum process, that goes back to why we very, very strongly recommend that there is a public education and outreach
We would hope that
process.
we would have resident
Yep.
buy-in well before,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't, there's no point going forward if we feel
residents
like
don't, yeah.
that the residents aren't going to support it. If they are going to support it, then we generally find that there's not any issue with the referendum. So that's the process that we follow. Again, if the town board decides after we go through the evaluation process that you want to continue, the rest of the process really takes, it's about 4 months to go through the process with the legislature and wait to the end of the permissive referendum period, and then it's just a matter of executing the documents. We have model transfer agreements, bills of sale, and so on to try to keep it as simple and straightforward as possible, keep everybody's legal costs down. So depending again on how long the evaluation and the outreach and education part takes, we're probably looking at least a 5-month process, but if that front end piece, which is a little more ambiguous, takes longer, that's what really then drives the rest of the schedule. So if there's questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If I want to talk more about some of the specifics of Vanderburg Cove. I have reviewed the information that you've given us, have a couple thoughts and comments, but other than that.
Any of you, Bruce and I had a lengthy meeting already. Do any other board members have any questions?
How does the billing work? Do you directly bill homeowners?
Yeah. If we own the system, we set the budgets, we set the rates, we bill the customers. Most of our systems, we bill either every 3 months or every 4 months. We're responsible for the collections, so we handle all of that as part of the ownership responsibilities.
Do you have public hearings on the proposed budget?
We do, and I should have mentioned that earlier. We are a public organization from the perspective of having to comply with all of the open meetings laws, freedom of information laws. When our budgeting process starts, usually with our October meeting, we review with our board what the actual expenses and revenues from the first 3 quarters of the year have been. We have a budget workshop either the end of October or beginning of November where we present to our board a draft budget. That all those meetings are open to the public. Once our board reviews a draft budget, we mail that out to the county legislators, the supervisors in any areas where we own systems. If there are, very often, especially when we first do an acquisition, there'll be some sort of either liaison or advisory committee made up of the local customers. So if there's anybody designated like that, we send them a copy of the draft budget. We put a legal notice in the newspaper of when our board's public hearing on the budget is. We post the draft budgets and rates on our website. Then our board holds a public hearing at which people are welcome to come in and comment, question, whatever about the budgets. And then usually at the December meeting, our board will adopt the budgets.
It sounds like for the homeowner, one good thing about your operation is it may save dollars because you have in-house expertise. What about access to capital? Do you have better access than...
We borrow with the backing of Dutchess County through that, through the districts that they create. The last couple times we've bonded, we've gotten a AA rating from the bond raters. We also borrow through the Environmental Facilities Corporation. They have the revolving loan fund, the low-interest loans for water and sewer system improvements. We do pursue grant money.
Okay, you can pursue
Yeah.
grant money.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would assume you're more plugged into Albany than we probably are.
Yeah, I can't say we have any special, political connections,
No,
but
but in
certainly,
terms of knowledge of what is
the funding
available.
programs, we know them, the regulators know us, the funders know us and know how we're set up, so.
Do we have to do anything more to get this rolling, or what do we have to do to get it rolling?
Really, at this point, it's just all very informal. If you want to proceed, there is information that we would request from the town. We've already gotten some of the engineering information. We'd like to look at the operation reports. Again, the revenue and expense history from the last couple of years. But really, at this point, it's if you say that you're interested in continuing, then we'll start that process.
So we need a resolution to that effect?
I think we would need some town board buy-in to proceed, and
That part's entirely up to you. At the end of the process, if you want to formalize that we go forward, we do ask for a resolution, but anything prior to that is entirely up to whatever
we could also sort of
process.
decide tonight, it's a look-see period, and for the public, and I see there are some members of the neighborhood here, we're looking to give a consistent quality of service to this district, which I don't believe we're able to provide, being that we have one maintenance person on staff, we have a bookkeeper handling everything for our town, we don't have a staff engineer, we rely on contracted operators for the department, we rely on a bevy of engineers, so it's almost like we're reinventing the wheel whenever an issue comes up. So for the homeowner's sake, for what they've been through with the system, it would be good to have consistent expertise running this, and we're not able to provide it. When the DEC, when we had to go before the DEC, it was reinventing the wheel, for at least for me, I don't speak sewer district language, sewer operations, so.
I unfortunately
Yeah.
do speak sewer.
Yes, you do. So that's what we're looking, is to keep the system healthy, to stay ahead of any problems, and it seemed like what you're offering is what we need. I talked to Aileen Rohr, the supervisor of Hyde Park, and she's in favor of this as well, and I think, at least speaking for me, I'd like to go through the process of looking and seeing what ownership would look like under your department. Does anybody from the Cove, any residents, have any questions or comments, or please come on up.
Let me ask anybody else
Could
if
you,
they have some first, so I don't duplicate.
just c-
Want me to-
Sure, please come on up. Thank you, Bridget.
Don't go too far,
Sure, I won't.
because I got a couple for you to start with.
Sure.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh,
Thank
Jim
you.
Baker, 8 Cove Road,
Thanks, Jim.
Small Cape, Blue. Legal costs. Do you have any idea how much the legal costs are for the transfer? Approximately, what have you seen?
Obviously, like anything else, it's going to be arranged based on the particulars. If it's a simple, straightforward transfer, we would look to keep the town's legal expenses certainly under $5,000.
But you understand, it's not the town, it's the sewer district's legal costs.
Yes, the sewer districts. I will tell you that there are things that can complicate it. If there's, we've found systems where pipes have been put on private property without easements, and we like, where possible, to clean that up as part of the transfer. I know in this instance, there is an outstanding EFC loan. We'll have to work through what can be done
outstanding
as
what?
far as an EFC loan.
Oh, okay.
Through the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund. What can be done as far as that. So again, general range, but each acquisition tends to have its own unique flavors.
You mentioned the draft budget board meeting, and it's open. Where is that usually held?
All of our board meetings are held in Poughkeepsie. We have offices at 27 High Street. Same as the planning department, if any of you have ever been there.
I hate to even ask this question. You mentioned an I&I study. Since we just went through an I&I study, do we need to do another I&I study? Or can we use the results of the I&I study that may have been completed but I haven't heard yet?
To the best of my knowledge, you've done several I&I studies. It does not appear to me, I did look at I think it's a draft at this point still, that Weston and Sampson put together. It looked to me to be pretty comprehensive. I certainly have questions about whether any of the follow-up they recommended has been done. I don't think a separate I&I study is necessary here. It's really more a matter of addressing the issues that they've identified, making those corrections, and then you look, if you still have overflow issues, then you maybe have to go back and figure out, okay, what else is there to look at? But I think it's been pretty well covered. It's the manholes, it's the sewer collection lines itself. They identified a couple issues, really not that there's too much flow, but the way it's being measured is incorrect. I think once those are all addressed, I really think that there's not going to be further issues.
I just wanted to ask one more question. The board that's appointed the directors, that's all volunteers? They're not paid?
Our board members are all volunteers.
All right, so it's on their spare time.
I wouldn't call it spare time, but
That's what it is.
our chairman is Tom LeGrand. Many of you might know him. He's from the Red Hook Rhinebeck area. Our vice chairman is Vince Damaso, a real estate broker from the Poughkeepsie area. Rudy Vavra, who's out of Milan. Larry Knapp, who is a construction estimator, lives in Beekman, works out of Poughkeepsie. And then one vacancy right now, actually, because one board member just resigned about 3 weeks ago.
Should ask for volunteers. Okay, so those were just the ones I got from what you said. I sent a note out to people asking them if they had any questions and they couldn't make it. I would try to ask their questions for them. Plus, I gave a list of questions I had, too. So I see Vinny's here, so he's interested in the plant. Right now it looks very nice. It's all, I won't say decorated, but it's kind of disguised in a number of fashions, so it looks pretty good. He's just hoping that nothing else changes because he doesn't want additional signs or other things up there. So hopefully, I don't think any of that will happen, but he'd like to make sure it doesn't. I don't know, you haven't had a chance probably to look at the budgets we've had in the past and the cost of our operators yet. So it's kind of premature to ask, and since you're going to do a draft budget anyway, to give us some idea. We only have 40 homes on the property.
Right.
All right, at this time, it's $1,200 a year. We were going to go through a budget process. I expect it to go up because we have no reserves to speak of. And eventually, we're going to have to replace the system or have some capital improvements, and we should have some reserves. So that wasn't put into the budget, or it's been used up as a result. We need to add a little more to get it there, in my opinion. That's my humble opinion. If people differ with that, you can let us know. But again, we'd like to see a proposed budget to try to compare to see the difference in cost of operators, the difference in cost of administration. Because again, there's only 40 people, only 40 families. Once the land is transferred, there really is no obligations for the town anymore in the
Right.
sewer district?
Right.
And that'll be this new area?
Right. We take ownership of the property, the physical assets. We have all the responsibilities to own and operate. We transfer permits to us. So at that point, we always are welcome to have input from the town on the management of the system. But there's no legal liability, no operations liability, no financial liability on the part of the town.
So basically, you would be filling out all the forms for our friends, the DEC,
Yes, our good friends.
right? I hate to ask a question, but has the report that was supposed to go out in January gone out yet?
The I&I study was in lieu of, the study that Rustin and Sampson did was in lieu of that. The DEC accepted that as yes, that's
Okay.
taken care of. And if you would like a copy, it's in the clerk's office, we can,
Well, I'd be glad to have a copy. You know me, I'm a copy guy. All right, as far as again, it's hard to project any difference in cost because we haven't compared them yet. The operators would be, again, you would choose between either someone yourself or
Yep.
it could be VRI or not VRI or somebody
Yeah,
else.
For the 3 sewer systems that we have, we do currently use contract operators. We do have licensed sewer operators on staff, but generally, part of the evaluation is distance from where our operators are based. A lot of times, that's one of the benefits of the contract operators, is that they're already operating facilities nearby, so they don't have travel time to get there. So that's part of the evaluation we make of whether, it's a contract operator or we do it ourselves. We we solicit proposals every 3 years for the contract operators. We want to make sure that we're getting good pricing, that we're seeing if there's any changes in the industry in terms of who's out there doing operations, kind of keep them all on their toes. But by the same token, it doesn't make sense to switch operators every year because you really benefit from somebody who gets to know your system. So
Right.
we try to balance that. We do use VRI for several of our systems right now.
Okay. You have 4,200 customers. How many of them are sewer customers, do you know, approximately?
Probably 6. There's about 1,300, 1,200 to 1,300
Okay.
that are sewer customers. We have some that are sewer customers and water customers.
All right, again, let's see. All right. So again, I guess we really haven't had anybody go out and check with other customers to see what their feelings are.
this is instead of a long drawn-out, more of a discussion with Bridget, this is something, you people are here, I would like to propose that we go ahead and look at what ownership would look like on our
Okay.
VRA, and have workshops, and, I hope everybody received, I wrote a letter, and I'm happy to correspond with letter or email, whatever works for you. But I think, all of these questions and more questions that will come up can be answered, but I would like to propose that we go ahead and move towards having the commission look at our documents and start a dialogue on what ownership would look like.
Okay. I just have a couple more, that's all. Can I ask a couple more
Sure.
questions? You've already talked about the budget process,
Yep.
so I don't have to ask you about that. You have an engineer who looks at water and sewer?
Yes.
And do you hire contract engineers as well? Because again,
Consulting
one
engineers.
of the problems we have is every time the town board changes, we get a new contract engineer, it's time for a new I&I study or some other study of the system.
Yep.
So we're hoping to try to avoid that
Yep.
cost of $16,000, again, amongst 40 people, starts to add up.
Depending on the scope of a particular issue, if we can resolve it in-house, we will. If we might need to hire a consulting engineer to do a more detailed evaluation, we will. I think where we have some advantages, there's a lot of consulting engineers that work in the county. There are a lot of them that are very good. There are new players all the time. But with any consultant, you need to tell them what you want. You need to, the more you can define the scope instead of going to them and saying, so tell us what we need, the better off you're going to be evaluating the information that they give you. And then the other thing is just the continuity. You've got infrastructure issues that there are certainly cases where you can have an issue that from the time that you identify a problem, develop a scope for the engineer, go out and get engineering done, get approval, construction, that can be a 4-year process. And if you've got turnover on town board, town supervisors, it's very understandable why the continuity isn't always there.
Right.
And that, I think, is another one of the advantages that we bring.
For the present 3 sewer districts you have, do you have a committee that works with you to help look at the operation or the budget or any other sewer matters? Or do you just do it and then tell them, here's what it
No,
is? and-
excuse me one second. Are you available on the phone?
Sure, yeah. and I can give
Because
you
this
my
is
card,
turning
I can
into a
give you-
discussion between the two of you at a town board
I think it's
meeting.
of interest to the people out here.
Well,
Because I got
would
the
sug-
questions from them,
I
these are not
would-
just my questions.
I would, if you could contact her, that would be great. Purpose of this was a presentation.
All right.
For Bridget to come. I want to just not have it go into a long, sidebar discussion.
I only had 2 other things to say.
No, I'm
all right?
gonna- I'm
The other
gonna-
thing is to thank you for sending the letters out.
You're welcome.
Because I know that the people like to have the information coming to them
Yep.
about what's going on. And the other thing is, if I don't have your email, let me know after the meeting, and I'll add you to my list if you're in the district and would like to get email.
I can email everybody, whatever.
Right.
Yep.
Save some postage.
Thank you, Jim. Yes. Please come up and introduce yourself.
I'm Ed Tobin,
Ed,
30 Cove Road.
Ed, please come up to the
My
microphone.
concern is
Ed,
that you wish
Ed.
to proceed without question.
Ed, please come to the microphone.
I am concerned.
Please introduce
That-
yourself for the,
Oh, yes. My name is Ed Tobin. I'm at 30 Cove Road, Rhinebeck, New York. I am just concerned that you wish to proceed with no questions, and we were all invited here. I thought we were invited so that we could listen to an excellent presentation and to raise any questions that might be there.
I think it was a presentation tonight, and we're willing to set up a workshop. And maybe that can be our next step, is a workshop, not at a town board meeting where Bridget comes to answer any questions from the residents.
I respectfully disagree.
Very well.
But Ed, do you have any specific questions you want to ask now?
Thanks, Joe. No.
I do have cards with me, and I'd be happy to give them out to anybody who wants them. You can have my phone number and email address. If you want to communicate with us directly, that's fine too.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
I have one stupid question. Does the county's procurement leverage apply to the chemicals used in the?
The county at large, no, because we're not officially part of the county. We go out to bid every year for all of the chemicals that we need for all of our systems, so there is some economies of scale and some buying power there for chemicals, for sludge hauling, for operations, but within the authority, not the county as a whole.
So the operators don't do that, you do that
We do
over
that.
for everything? Okay, that's good.
What has your experience with the DEC been?
First off, by and large, very good. We work very hard to stay on top of issues, stay ahead of issues, because we have acquired systems that have been in bad shape. We have had compliance issues with DEC. I will tell you that the biggest, well, two most important things to deal with DEC. The more you communicate with them, the better. that, if you tell them something's going on before they find it and tell them what you're doing about it, they're always happier. The second is that they have changed a lot. It used to be that DEC's attitude was that they wanted compliance from publicly owned systems, but that there wasn't a whole lot to be gained by leveraging fines against public systems, because all you're doing is taking the customer's money, taking the system's money that could be put towards a solution, and you're transferring it to another level of government. That has really changed, and we've spoken with people within DC. One of the law firms we use, one of their attorneys used to be in regional enforcement in DC. They have been told generate revenues. So their attitude about fining public owners
Compliance is becoming more and more
very
difficult,
different.
and the fining is becoming,
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Sorry. Other questions?
Alan, Joe, Bruce, Elaine, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Okay, on to committee and liaison reports. Does anybody have any? Joe, Alan, Bruce,
I have an
Elaine?
update
Great.
regarding the stone wall and the insurance. We got the estimates back. An adjuster went down and met with,
This is the cemetery.
this is the cemetery, exactly, the stone wall that was damaged from the recent storm. Tree came down on it. So I have some good news. The adjuster, the estimate to repair is $2,600, and they said that the $250 deductible, based on the amount of the estimate and the deductible reduction provision in the insurance policy, the deductible would be waived, so we wouldn't even have to pay the deductible.
Great.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to Shelley about this and given Shelley all
I
these?
tried, I contacted her on Friday, and I forwarded her the email, and I didn't hear back.
Okay.
So
She
I'll
was
try her
out-
again
She was
tomorrow.
out today, and we'll be working on the
She'll
budget.
be back tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'll contact her again.
I'll talk to Shelley, too.
Yeah, and I forwarded her all the information from the insurance company, so they need to hear back from us, so I'd like to be able to tell them, yes, we're ready to move forward.
And we have estimates from contractors who would fix it.
Exactly, yep,
You have to just get them on the next agenda, and we'll,
Sure.
see if Gary has a recommendation, and...
he does have a recommendation. His
Fantastic.
recommendation was to go with the adjuster, that's where they came up with the 2,600. With the quote that the adjuster gave him was for the 2,600. Gary agrees with that, when he came out to look at the stone wall fence.
Well, is there a vendor who's given us a quote for 20?
Yes, there are 3 of them, actually.
All right, well, let's just get it on our next, we have a couple of special meetings
Sure.
coming up.
Oh,
We can
perfect.
get it on, on a budget meeting, we can...
Do you want me to invite Gary, or do you think it's not necessary?
I met with him, so as
Oh.
long as you're comfortable, I mean...
I'm perfectly comfortable.
During budget workshop, I met with him when we went over them.
Okay, great, so, sounds good.
Thanks, Elaine.
Sure.
Bruce?
I just want to report on the sewer committee, but I won't.
That's a bad joke. And I'll make sure, I'll email Jim and make sure he gets the report. And we should, I had it, I thought I had it in my folder, I don't. This is one of the thick folders, but there's a list of things that we have to get done by the end of the year. There's several things.
Well, we have to hear back from DEC whether they accept it, right? As far as I know,
BJ hasn't, he said he'd get back to us in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so once that happens, then we can do it. What I've been trying to forward everything to them, to Jim and Dan, who are our 2 committee members, but that last one seemed sensitive, I think when we talked about it or something, so I didn't send it. so.
Fine, that's fine. It'll be here. Also, it's huge, so
Yeah. It's only-
it's only a couple inches thick. Okay. Joe?
We're going to talk about affordable housing.
I was going
a
to
bit
say, is
later.
it looking to see if it was on here? Yeah, okay, great. Do you want to talk about it now, or is this no, it's a resolution you
Why
want?
don't we wait?
Okay, fine. Alan? Great. Let's go on to our resolutions then. Tab number 1, I'll make a motion for Resolution 2014-310 to accept the preliminary accounts payable abstracts vouchers 1,079 through 1,134.47, totaling $86,296.55. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I'll make a motion for Resolution 2014-311, our preliminary capital projects abstracts, 2 checks totaling $5,178.50. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. I'm going to take this out of order, and I'm sorry, I'd like to bring a discussion item forward. I have Melanie Moore here for our historic preservation, and she's going to present to us briefly, and we're going to set a workshop to workshop the historic preservation. I'm sorry, Melanie, I saw you out there. I got thrown for a minute.
It's okay.
I knew I had to do something, but
Perfectly all right.
thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm here representing the committee that you appointed in the spring to bring back to you a draft historic preservation ordinance. And you have that in your books tonight. I think it's under tab
13.
13. And we've worked hard since the spring. We've been meeting every month. We've had full participation on all the committee members. And there's still, obviously, some loose ends in this, but we've brought it to you now because we think this is the time to initiate a dialogue with you and entertain your questions and comments and concerns. I also, in tab 14, gave to John today a few other things that I would bring to your attention that I think will help you as you move through review of the ordinance. One of the things is a PowerPoint presentation prepared by Louise Gicco, who is on our committee, on the financial incentives for historic preservation in Rhinebeck. One of the things that we would see a committee equivalent to the Conservation Advisory Board doing in the future is educating local residents about the value of their properties and what is available to them in terms of support for historic preservation. So Louise has done a really good job on this, and we would see a future committee as being really educational in nature and helping people to understand the value of their historic properties. We also, because we anticipate there will be questions about how such an ordinance will impact applications coming before the planning and zoning boards, we've prepared a flow chart for you to look at that shows how an application coming with some historic preservation attributes would move through the process. And I think what it indicates is that it really is not going to slow down the process. It's going to give an additional review level that's important to preserving the resources that we have in the town. The town historian has also prepared for you a list of all historic properties in the town that we know of at this point. Some are federally designated, some are National Register, and some have been identified through the comprehensive plan, and they are tied to the map we have here that's in the back of the comprehensive plan. And the final thing, because we thought it would be of interest to you, is we've created some hypothetical scenarios in terms of if someone came before us and had X, Y, and Z application, how would it move through and what would be the results? A lot of them are true to things we've seen at the planning board already in the past, but it will give you an idea of how the process would work. So we're looking to find a time with you to workshop this, and we also have a resolution here tonight. We thought it would be expeditious and cost-effective to have the planning board consultant, Art Brode, review this for compliance with the comprehensive plan and the zoning law. Ultimately, this will need to be looked at by council, but it seems to us most efficient to ask Art to do it at this point. He has told me that he believes he can review this for a cost not to exceed $300. So that resolution, I think, is before you, and I would ask for you to consider that this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
thank you. I think those will be great for our workshop. Thank you and your committee for all the hard work. I know you have worked hard on this and put a lot of time into it. It's a big committee.
It is.
So, and for the public, the village does have a historic preservation law, and this is in our comp plan. We're asked to do it, and it's in keeping with what the village has. So there's a uniformity.
David Miller from the village has been serving on our committee. We've looked closely at the village's law, and we also met with Julian Adams of SHPO and looked at the New York State Model Preservation Law.
Great. So should we select a date now? I'll take those, I'll give them to John after the meeting, and he can make sure that we all have copies.
You do. John has,
John does?
these are all in their board.
They're in the book.
Oh, they're in the tab 13, it seems?
14, tab 14,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe.
Oh, great.
John took care of all that this
Thank you.
morning.
Thank you.
Are these maps available in a better resolution?
You know, I have been suggesting that we should reproduce this map. There's not a lot of them.
Oh, that's it?
That's it, and we certainly could use them at the planning board. I know probably the zoning board could use them as well. We refer them often, but we do not have good copies of them at this point. I apologize.
No,
I'll take a
thank you.
picture with my iPhone and put it
Thank you
on.
very much.
Melanie, what works for you in the next month, you and your committee? As much committee participation as we could get would be great. How about, does Monday the 6th work for you? Or is that a planning?
The 6th does not work for me.
Okay.
The 13th works.
How about Tuesday the 7th or Thursday?
I'm away that week.
Okay. I think Monday the 13th is a school holiday, but that's fine. I could certainly do the 13th.
Yeah, except I'm not going to be around.
Yeah, we have also town board the next day.
Oh, right.
Operation.
How about, should we do this via email?
Sure.
We can announce it publicly. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, instead of waiting for everything to...
And I did inform my committee that they were welcome to come tonight, but that we weren't going to enter into
No,
any dialogue.
I think it worked out well, affordable housing, where we did for the public, an overview of what we're going to do, and then had an offline. You'll probably need a couple hours.
I would think so.
Several,
Mhm.
yeah, to go through this. So, thank you
Okay.
again for all of your hard work, and we'll be an email, and we'll be noticing the public when our workshop to look at this historic preservation will be. So thank you again, Melanie.
Thank you all very much.
I have a question, Melanie. Does this resolution have the hiring of Art Broad in it, or
I don't know, John developed it for me, so
it doesn't? Okay, that's
Yes,
that's fine,
it
'cause I
does.
think it's premature at this point.
Well, there's a resolution, we'll vote on it.
Right, but I just want to know what's in it. You know, we often don't have a
It's
lot
tab
of...
11, it's one.
Right,
it's
we
one-
often don't have time to actually read.
I think you're looking
every
at the wrong
resolution.
one. It's a one-page, four-sentence resolution. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
clear. Yeah. No, tab 11, Joe. Thanks, Melody.
okay, take care.
That's the $300.
Oh,
If you're a member of the press and this is for clarification, you could contact us. Thank you. The clerk's office, or I'll be happy to clarify. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
No, this is going to be exciting.
We need excitement.
Yeah.
We're plowing through things, so, great.
We have Stephen, right? Yeah. He's the concession thing was...
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't,
But-
sure.
But let me just, it wasn't meant to be a resolution, it was meant to be a discussion item.
So let's take him out
And
of,
just talk about his proposal. So, you want to come up?
Stephen, why don't you come up and talk to us about your proposal?
which tab is this?
It's resolution, it's in the resolution form, it's tab number 4, but you're saying we're not going to have a resolution, this is a discussion item, so we'll take that out. Hi, Stephen, could you introduce yourself?
Sure, Stephen Gutterman, 48 Livingston Street.
Thanks for coming.
Sure. Oh, so I sent a proposal last week to Bruce, and it's for the concession stand for the summer season for the pool, as well as for the Rhinebeck neighborhood. My idea is mostly...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of
Oh, it's for the pool as well as for the residents of Rhinebeck.
Oh, great.
Because there's a dual window
Sure,
quality
sure.
to the concession
So you don't have to
stand.
check into the pool in order to get lunch?
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly. The proposal is basically to offer, complimentary culinary services that that are maybe lacking in the town, in the sense that it'd be fun and creative food, as well as some guilty pleasures. Taking into consideration the kids and the teens that use the pool, and as well as everybody, creating a menu that would kind of appeal to everybody. That'd be the goal.
I saw your menu, it looks delicious.
Oh, thanks.
Have you looked at the space?
I have. Bruce was kind enough to give me a tour of the facility, and I had some thoughts after it, and I thought it could be very viable.
Great.
So-
We ran the concession stand ourselves, the town did through our rec, and it was challenging, so it would be,
Staffing was, and we were learning, so.
yeah, well, again, it's difficult, so it would be, I think it would be great to have it, someone who's, with your experience, run it. Bruce, did you want to speak to the resume or anything?
No, I think this is something we need to consider. There's things in here that we're going to have to work out, and one example is the 3 years financials. We don't have 3 years. We have
Okay.
only the year that we ran it, and
Okay.
we can tell you that in a short period of time. But there's some other things. I also, the procedure in the past had been to solicit different bids or whatever to do this, and it always turned into a disaster.
Yes.
So I don't know, that's another thing we need to consider, that we have somebody that's willing to do it early in the
No, it was
cycle.
refreshing to see this, I was excited.
And, so I think it's something that we need to consider, and I think we need to consider it soon because it's going to affect budgets. So,
How do we move it? Do we,
I think as soon as Shelley can give us the breakdown on the labor, on the concession stand, then we know what it costs, right?
do we have to go out to bid?
I don't think we need to, but we need to talk about that.
Right, I think we maybe need advice from Warren as
Yeah.
to whether, I think it's a good idea. I think
Well-
we should move on it sooner, because there's one less thing to worry about in connection with the summer program. So if we got this thing set, you can focus on other things.
But there's more to this than just the summer program. If this
Yes, no, I
works, you
understand.
want to be able to use it more throughout the year, right?
I think if I could build a following beyond just the pool crowd, I would be interested in moving it into fall before it gets very cold. I know that it's not a heated space, so I think that the deep winter and early spring might be a little tough, but maybe a 8-month proposition, something like that.
So the way we might look at this is a pilot to a rental situation.
Yeah.
And if we do it that way, then we're not playing the bid game, So that's why we have to have the discussions.
Thank you.
Sure,
Sounds
thank you.
good. Yeah.
So Bruce, you're going to talk to Warren as to whether we got a bid, or who's going to...
Well, if the town board wants to go with the pilot for rental, then we're done.
So you don't think we have to? Well,
Right.
but I guess Warren has to be the ultimate caller
I don't
as to whether
think
we
so.
have to go. I think it's a great idea.
Pilot for rental, yes.
So do I.
In the past, what did we do? We polled as
We
many
begged.
vendors.
Yes, we begged people.
And whoever seemed to show up was the one we took.
Right.
So I think if we treat it as a pilot for rental, we could say that's what we want to do, and let's move on. And I'll just verify with
You know,
Yeah.
pending Warren's approval.
I think we should
And, you know, a great resume, Culinary Institute grad, a Rhinebeck resident, wonderful menu.
But we're going to have to work out some of the details, because some of them just aren't going to work with us, so.
Are you available during the day if we have budget meetings? All right, thank you. So we're not, there is no resolution here for us. This is, no.
Oh, there is.
No,
Right, but I
in the
don't-
budget, what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to outsource the operation in 2015, and we're going to figure whatever the financials are here, and say that's our plan, and then at the next meeting after that, we'll say we're taking this proposal, unless we want to do something else, but we have to factor it into the budget first, I think.
Okay.
So we'll count it as a revenue item for $3 million.
I was thinking 94 million, given the resume.
That's right.
It's only 7,000, 8,000 people in Rhinebeck. That should be easy.
Well, we have 3 or 4 people that come in from other places. I gotta get more water. Keep talking. Sorry.
Okay, so we've gone out of order. I'm going to go back to the resolutions. This is not a resolution for us to vote on. So resolution, tab number 3, 2014-312, I'll make a motion to accept, oh no, this is not, this, we should read this actually. A motion to accepting bid for replacement of town hall steps. May I have a second? Second, Bruce?
I'll say second so we can discuss it.
Okay, great. Any discussion? Bruce, you want to talk us through this?
I guess the superintendent of buildings and grounds went out and with a bid. These are the ones that came back. They're attached in here, I guess, or the draft is in there. I guess just the prices. Draft of the contract. The low bidder is Scott Hughes Masonry, and the motion is to use Scott Hughes Masonry as the low bidder.
I've read all these. I've spoken with Bobby.
It's hard to describe any of these bids as low.
Well, you know, it's rebuilding
You have the option to waive it.
Pardon me?
You have the option not to take any of the bids.
Yeah. I don't know what the bidding instructions were, but I think there has to
I
be
think
better
Bobby was before
ways.
us to explain it, wasn't he? Or is this, I've spoken to him so many times, I can't remember if it was in public or not. We have to rebuild the infrastructure underneath the steps.
understand.
It's all crumbling.
I understand, but I think there's probably different ways, at least he's told
You get
me.
wooden steps for
Or
that
or
matter.
poured concrete would be much cheaper to do. I think these amounts are excessive. You know,
We have
and it may be that they're fair for what we ask, but there has to be a better way to build steps than this.
This, I believe this is to restore the steps.
Yes, it is. This is a pretty significant job. We have steps that are a state safety issue.
I agree, but it seems like a lot of money for 4 steps.
Have you seen the square footage and the stone that
But
covers it?
Come on, you could build a,
You know,
could build
I
wooden steps.
understand all this, but here we are, we're going into winter, and the time, we've been talking about this for months. It's better if people get involved at the beginning of the process so that we don't hit a
Yeah, but the
stone
last
wall
time-
here.
The last time we talked about this, it looked like it would cost 10 to 12 to 15, and now we're looking at 20 to 30.
We would accept a bid for $21,375. Bruce, do you have any comments or further?
Well, the alternative is precast or cast in place,
There you go.
which isn't going, it's going to look like the back, the ramp in the back rather
This is a
than
historic building, and
that's out front. That's, the function's the same. You know?
I'm not in favor of cast-in-place concrete steps in front of our
Okay, well,
lovely town hall, but
I'm definitely not in favor of spending $21,000.
It does seem high. It does.
Let's have a vote. All in favor? Aye. Bruce? No? Opposed? So moved. So I'll
So,
be interested to see what comes back to fix the steps.
okay.
Well, now we have to go out for a different bid.
Well, let's have Bobby come back with some proposals before we go out to bid as to other ways to construct them.
This was based on his proposal to
That came
rebid
to us.
underneath.
Yeah, I understand, to restore the steps.
Right, and to rebuild underneath. What the town board has just done is said, we reject the restoration of both sets of steps, and what we want to do is a functional equivalent, which is precast or something like that.
Yep, I'd like the public to know that we're considering poured concrete steps in front of our historic building for the price of $21,000. So if anybody has any input about that, I urge you to come to the next meeting.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically what we can do is we can ask Rochelle to get a bid for those steps, right? Or
Well, Bruce,
quotes.
are those the only alternatives? I think we should really consult with Bobby, who is our expert on construction, before we say, well, it should be precast or what. See what he recommends. He has told me he thought poured concrete would make sense.
And that's what, never mind, I'm not gonna go.
This is,
We go through this all the time. We say the cheapest way to do it is the poured concrete or the precast, but then for some reason we go and do something else. We were doing it on the dog kennel, we did it on the transfer station, we're doing it on the steps. What do you want? If you want function, you want functionally safe steps, then I don't think we need Bobby to do that, or he would do the work. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's the one who told us that the thing underneath needs to be fixed. We thought, and I think we thought logically, that the mortar on the top was what needed to be replaced to keep the water from getting in, to keep it from heaving. We paid Aegon Olufsen to do that. The truck backed up from the farmer's market, dislodged the bluestone, the water, and compromised the mortar. The water got in there, and the front steps heaved. So it's not underneath as far as we know, right? It's not the foundation, the structure, everything else. It's still a surface issue as far as we know, unless you know something that I don't know. So to me, we should have, the alternative probably is to get somebody to say, what does it take to take the bluestone off, or however they would do it, a mason, take the bluestone off, resurface the top with the mortar, and put the bluestone back.
Yeah, one of the questions, though, is can you get the bluestone off without breaking it?
we can't have a guarantee of doing that, no.
Bluestone's very brittle.
Yeah, I know, but, so you put all those contingencies in there. If you look at these bids, there's $16,000 just in materials. So the labor is not much. Really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, you want to save the railings? Yeah, just decide.
What do you want to do? This is your department.
Oh, it's,
You're a liaison to this department. I thought we were on the same page here. We're rejecting this. Effectively, what we're saying is the steps are not going to get fixed this year. So you're saying $20,000 is too much, but compared to what? For a set of concrete poured steps in front of our brick town hall? Really? Let's move along. Resolution 2014-314. I'd like to schedule a special town board meeting for October 1st at 2 PM to give you all a copy of my tentative budget. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
What day is October 1st on?
I don't know. A Wednesday.
I won't be able to make it because
That's
I work
okay.
full-time.
It's a receiving of it, and
you give it to us or do you give it to the clerk? I'm confused.
I give it to the clerk, and then the clerk gives it to you.
Okay.
But is everybody going to be here?
Yes,
So I won't be able to be here.
that's right.
So is there a time that we can schedule this where I can be present, especially since this is my first budget?
Unfortunately, I'm booked nights that week, and there's a very short time when we can do it.
But we're not going to have a discussion that day.
No, it's just receiving
They're
it.
just physically going to give it to us.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be waiting for you. I'm sorry, I have a commitment on the evening, so
it's October 1 at what time?
2 PM.
And we'll get a soft copy.
So we just got to make sure we have a quorum, right?
Yes.
We only need 3 people here.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
So it's 2 PM?
Yeah.
Resolution 214, 315, accepting bids and repair and resurfacing of the rec park tennis and basketball courts. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
Let's see, so this one, we're not taking the lowest bidder, we're recommending the middle bidder based on warranty?
Based on, all of these have warranties, based on experience, comes highly recommended.
No, I don't think the lowest one has a warranty.
No, oh, the lowest, the middle bidder has a warranty. The top 2 bidders have a warranty, and we're recommending, I think Copeland has been recommended based on their references.
And you're sure that the low bidder's warranty's been requested of the low bidder?
I personally spoke to them, and I asked them for that.
And you've got that documented, so someplace?
By documented, what do you mean?
I think he's saying it here publicly that he's spoken to them, and
Yeah, I know, but you want to have desk notes or something if you don't take the low bidder.
No.
But we can make it, obviously, of the conversation. You know, just what Bruce is worried about, I guess, is that we're not taking the lowest bid, so somebody could sue us for that unless we have a reason for it.
we don't have
And-
faith in the lowest bid.
What?
We don't have faith and there's no warranty.
Right, well, I don't know about faith, but there's no warranty is certainly one objective factor, so they're not comparable bids.
Any further discussion? Anybody have any questions? The purpose of this is to get this taken care of before it becomes an infrastructure issue, and we believe that'll happen over the winter.
I know, I looked at, together with Alan, both the basketball court and the tennis. Certainly, the basketball court needs work. With respect to the tennis, it's starting certainly to wear, and at least my thought is that since I believe this would be paid for by moving money out of the fund we have for Stone Church Road, and since the interest on that is probably minuscule, it's probably better money spent to avoid the risk of deterioration. I think we'll get more bang for the buck by spending the money now rather than risking. So that's, I guess, my thought process. I don't know if anybody else has different thoughts.
That's the thought that we've been thinking. Better to take care of it now than have to rebuild it later. Any comments, further comments or questions? Okay, ready to call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Well, in favor of taking the Copeland Coating Company bid?
Yes.
That's what we're
That's
voting
what
on.
the
Yeah.
resolution says.
Oh, okay.
$33,000. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you.
This is better than what Morris got the last time from us.
Resolution 2014-316, road signs at the town of Rhinebeck Cemetery.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Elaine, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, this was the presentation Suzanne Kelly made at the last board meeting, the previous board meeting, the Friends of Rhinebeck, which is a nonprofit organization that works closely with the cemetery committee. There are no signs currently on the roads in the cemetery, and they want to raise the funds and pay for the installation of road signs in the cemetery.
Free signs.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Any further discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Resolution 2014-317, plant a tree, build an arboretum at the town of Rhinebeck Cemetery. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
Elaine, again, this
Same
is...
thing, yeah, part of the presentation that the cemetery committee made on behalf of the Friends of Rhinebeck Cemetery. This one is they would, again, raise funds to plant trees in the old section of the cemetery, replacing trees that have been lost over time. There hasn't really been an active tree planting in the cemetery for a long time, so they want to replace a lot of the lost trees and keep in line with the
the
greenscape
plan that
plans for the
they've come up
cemetery.
with.
Yep.
This is as per our last town board meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Resolution, tab number 9, Resolution 2014-318, disposal of surplus office equipment. I'd like to make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
For the public, for you guys, had a town hall working lunch meeting. This is one of the things that we're working on, is cleaning out town hall of all unused, broken office equipment, and we have a million broken chairs, tables lying around. Rochelle Adair is going through and cataloging everything, and this is a list of items that I'm asking you to approve that we can recycle at the Household Hazardous Waste Day. Any questions?
Is there any charge for recycling these at the hazardous waste day?
I think it might be $5 a carload. It has been in the past.
Yeah, because Best Buy takes computer and electronic equipment free.
This is at our own town property, so
Yeah.
I would support bringing it there.
Is this the hazardous waste stuff, though?
Some of it is, some of it is.
The transfer
But the
station takes
printers
this,
and the
too.
computers, Best Buy will take for free.
Yeah. I don't care.
Again, I'm asking for
Yeah, monitor
authorization to
that.
get rid of it, and our town maintenance will do so.
Okay.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2014-319, it's the approving contract for our Open RDA, our annual support contract for the bookkeeping software. I'll make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this what we had in budget for this?
No, it's less.
Less? Okay.
Less.
Yeah, we moved
Losing
this
any
off
function?
of-
No, not yet, although my feet are
We're
going,
using the cloud
my
version.
hands are going, my hands are going numb.
Because we went to the cloud.
Right, which has many, many other advantages. Because now you can use it from any workstation.
Any further discussion?
5 years. 5 years I've been in.
7,900. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2014-320, it's to engage a planner to review our historic preservation law. Melanie Moore was before us and asked for the not-to-exceed $300 to look at what they're proposing to make sure it's in keeping with our zoning law. Any, is there an open I'd like to make a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So, and then discussion I already had.
Well, just, to me, $300 is nothing, but I think it's just premature before we even workshop the thing to hire somebody. The plan may change some, so we're going to have to hire them again. So I would wait till the workshop and...
Well, we can approve it pending, the final. Well, let's wait. Let's get it where we like, and then we'll...
So it's held over?
I think we should hold it over. So, we're not going to vote on this, or do you want us to vote it down, or? We're going to table it. That's it for our resolutions. We have one more discussion item, which is the cell phone tower.
Well, let's talk about,
Joe, I think that's you. There is a
yeah,
resolution.
12.
Okay, you want to talk about it first, and then we'll come back to the reso?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's not something to vote on tonight because we don't have all the documentation. We're waiting for the CEQA review by Ted Fink. He promises that I'll have it tomorrow, and I would present this. We have a meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. John Lyons has reviewed the draft of the affordable housing proposed law. I've incorporated his comments. I got them on Sunday afternoon, but he sent me a copy with it in. We were able to take it. His comments were minimal. This is the second time he's reviewed it. We highlighted the changes we made in the last year. So by tomorrow night, it should be ready, and what this resolution, which I hope we can vote on tomorrow, merely provides that the board accepts the draft, and the board will act as the lead agency. We'll send the draft out to the planning board for comments. We'll send the draft to the CAC for comments. So it just starts the ball rolling. And then after we get those reports, it goes to Duchess Planning. And then eventually there's a public hearing on the draft as to whether we should adopt it. So I'd like to defer this motion until tomorrow night. And if John can put it on the agenda, I don't think it will take more than a couple of minutes. And this is really the same type of resolution that we've used for other legislation. Okay? Oh, okay.
So it's tabled.
Yeah, table it till tomorrow.
I would rather do this at a regular town board meeting. I've called a special meeting for just workshop, but if everyone wants to do this, you can.
I don't, my view is why wait 2 weeks for just a ministerial thing, and we can send it on to other people. This thing, let me just finish. This thing was part of the legislation passed in December 2009. We are now in 2014, so we have not proceeded expeditiously. So to wait another 2 weeks for a purely ministerial thing,
Again,
I throw my hands up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did John Lyons, who is land use attorney, did he review the local law portions of this?
The draft, yes, he reviewed the drafts. Is that
I don't
what
mean that it's a local law. I meant home rule, that we can charge fees for permits and things like that to fund affordable housing?
I didn't specifically ask him that question. It's certainly in the draft. If we're unsure of that, we certainly could ask Warren that question if you're leery about it, but...
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I'm leery about it.
But we can ask that question as we're proceeding. I don't think we have to hold it up for that. We can certainly engage Warren to answer that question.
Okay. To me, that's a very significant issue.
Yes, I'm not trying to put it under the rug. Let's ask the question. but I think we should at least start moving. It's 4 years already.
Any further
Question,
discussion?
yeah. Question, I guess, are we agreeable to tabling this till tomorrow?
I would rather wait for a town board meeting.
Right, no, I understand, so let's vote on it.
Well, I think I set the agenda, so, I mean, you can bring it forward under new business. I called a special meeting to go over some issues for my tentative budget. You can bring it up under new business.
Well, I'll bring it, okay.
Let's go on to our last discussion item. We have a cell phone tower discussion. Joe, that's your item?
Right, we got a draft of a proposed cell phone tower agreement from the vendor that we talked to about economic terms, and we basically agree that the board, what the economic terms would be. They gave us a draft agreement. I've gone through it and have a lot of suggested changes. Warren has gone through it, and he has made a lot of suggested changes. So the next step would be to send it back to the vendor and see what their reaction is. I did raise with the vendor the zoning situation and the issue that that parcel is zoned for civic use only. And apparently that does not include a cell phone tower, although cell phone towers could be right next door.
It can be in the
to-
RC5 pretty much only.
Right to the property. The vendor was aware of this. They thought that we could get or they could get a variance from the board of, for the zoning board that handles that. Both John and Warren feel the better way to proceed is by amending the zoning law. And we have twice amended the zoning law in the last 6 or so months. So I think that's the way we should proceed. I think they are aware of this, and I think they will pay for that process. So we should, if we want to proceed, we should suggest who they should retain. They can retain anybody they want. We have had one a planner on the 2 previous applications to change the zoning law. I can suggest that name to them, and they can decide whether that or anybody else. We'll use, I assume, John Lyons to advise us. I think it's a very simple change. You're just adding to the table of uses one more use.
Thank you. Any questions?
If that's all it is, I have no questions.
No, all it is looking to expand the permitted uses within the CIV, the Civic District, to include, and we should look at all the uses permitted there in our zoning, because there's not a lot allowed there, and the thinking is,
Right next door, we have a Civic.
yes.
With
and
a
the
cell
think-
tower on it.
But it's in the village, and the thinking is it's
Well-
better to keep cell towers in the Civic District than in the rural countryside, so if we could expand our use there, it's something we should look at and make sure it's in keeping with what our zoning says we
Right,
should be
especially
doing.
since the landowner right next to us could do the
Right.
same thing, so we might as well get the revenue rather than
No, not
tear
only
it
get the
down.
revenue, it's better to keep maybe utilities on public land than on private land, perhaps. Thanks. Any public comment on any non-agenda items? Any questions? I don't think we have an executive session tonight, so I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second? Sure.
Dodd Crane Village resident referenced the steps, just as a past user of Town Hall and as a resident of the village. I'd like to see the blue stone preserved.
So do I.
I think there is a tradition. I've fallen down them a couple of times, so they're near and dear to my heart. I may try to get some other opinions from folks I know who do stonework and see if there isn't some other technical solution that's not cast concrete and preserves the blue stone appearance. Thank you.
Thanks, Dodd. Anything else? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. May I have a second? I'm sorry?
Second.
Anyone on the town board? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved.
Thanks for your help.